with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly podcast that reviews one or two new release titles every episode with an occasional free-for-all segment at the end that we call Potpourri. You can find more of our work, including my written reviews, full episode show notes, and the complete backlog of our episodes at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also write into the show by emailing me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where you can get access to content at any of our tier levels on a recurring monthly subscription basis, or you can buy individual collections a la carte in the Patreon shop section. Recently on Patreon, I did some more Heartland Film Festival immediate reaction recordings and things of that nature. So there's a bunch of stuff on there I think I ended up watching like 6 movies at Heartland, which is more than I expected to, given some private stuff that's been happening in the world in my life. But I was able to see a bunch of stuff that I really enjoyed. So that's at Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media, including Letterboxd, at the handle of Obsessive Viewer. And later in the show, we'll be reviewing Jason Reitman's new film, Saturday Night, currently in theaters. But before that, we're going to go over some movie news and then review Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, Woman of the Hour, which is available on Netflix, in this week's feature review. And joining me tonight are my friends and IFJA colleagues, Sam Watermeier and Joe Shearer, both of whom's work can be found on MidwestFilmJournal.com, and both can be followed on Letterboxd at the handles of Joe R. Shearer and Sam Movie Man. Welcome back to the show, Joe and Sam. How is it going this evening?
It's going great. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Thanks for committing to the next 4 or 5 hours of your evening. I really appreciate it.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yes.
It's already been that.
It has. It actually has. And none of that is usable on Patreon. So Patreon supporters, you're missing out on a very fun anecdote about Joe's bladder. Nothing
more interesting than that.
Right? But yeah, so you guys have been working hard. This is another instance where I have guests on for 2 movies. Both these movies have been you guys have each reviewed this movie, both of these movies, so independent of each other. Oh my god, stumbling all over the place. Sam, you reviewed Saturday Night. Joe, you reviewed Woman of the Hour. Matt, I have not read either of those reviews. So, but yeah, like, I don't know. So I just kind of like that. But yeah, as I normally do, I'll give a rundown of some recent stuff you guys have done. Sam, you reviewed A Different Man, Blade 2, Saturday Night, and Smile 2. And Joe, you have a review of Woman of the Hour, Falling Stars, and Alien Romulus. All of this is up on MidwestFilmJournal.com. How's it going in terms of film writing and stuff?
Well, for me, it's been slow. I'm doing personal things, selling a house and moving and things like that. Sam also has been moving, but I don't know how much it's impacted his reviewing, but for me, it's been very limiting. But as we get into the fall and winter season of getting things, it'll be picking up, I'm sure, and maybe I'll be dropping by here a time or two between now and the end of the year.
Oh, I'd love to have you. Hell yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling that crunch of like, okay, we're on the cusp of like award season and everything. Like, I feel like these next 2 weeks are like a small sliver of time where it's like we're about to get inundated with screeners and awards consideration stuff, but it's also like Halloween time. It's just a weird like sliver of time between like Heartland and screener season, and then like there's Halloween in the middle there. So I don't know. Sam, how about you?
Good. I'm it feels like this year's been kind of slow in terms of delivering like the standout favorites of the year. Like earlier this year, I was blown away by I Saw the TV Glow, but I felt like I, for a long time, for several months, didn't really have anything else to come up with any kind of like top 10. But it feels like now these like award season type movies are coming out with Saturday Night, and even Woman of the Hour feels kind of Oscar seasony.
Yeah, that kind of prestige stuff.
Yeah, like these sort of loftier A-list movies. But this has also been a great year for weirder stuff, like I Saw the TV Glow and like The Substance and these movies that are filling out my top 10 despite being like pretty crazy genre pieces. Not that my top 10s always have weirder picks, but even The Substance is getting like a lot of buzz and critical admiration. So I don't know, it's been kind of a weird year. I've been excited to see, more sort of Oscar season type stuff coming out in these last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, how's your like top 10 working out and everything?
I actually pulled it up while we were talking. Yeah, I would agree that it's weird, and there's nothing here. My current number one is Rebel Ridge, which is not it's very good, but it's not. I don't anticipate it staying at one the rest of the year by any means. It was an enjoyable movie, but it's just it has been kind of weird with the things that have been out. But I also have a lot of genre and horror films and documentaries in my top 10 right now, including this one we're going to talk about is there right now. But it's not been, I wouldn't call it particularly strong. And I'd say there's been a lot of disappointments for me, especially. But there's a handful of good things, and there's certainly things I haven't seen that The Substance is one of those that a lot of people are raving about that I want to get to, and but it's it's been sort of hit or miss, I think, so far, and hopefully it picks up now that October is here. We're getting into that season. Hopefully there's some things that are really terrific.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will be, as is historically how it happens. It's like there's a lot of stuff, but my top 10 is a pretty interesting grouping. I've mentioned this before in weeks past on the podcast, but like there has been just a very eclectic and interesting run of like coming of age movies and like introspective movies of like adolescence and youth, ranging from like I Saw the TV Glow to Dee Dee to My Old Ass to the 430 movie. There's been a lot of really interesting stuff there. So, but we'll see how the top 10 shakes out for me, because it's like there's a lot of movie watching left in the year, guys.
Yes. There's a ton left. Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of movie watching, and speaking of Indianapolis, not that we've referenced it yet, but we all live in Indianapolis. And I kind of wanted to start doing a new like segment, just to give a rundown of some stuff that's happening in the Indianapolis like movie going scene, basically. That's something that I want to kind of start doing weekly. I think I'm kind of got the bug, the itch from Heartland and everything. So, playing this week in Indy, at the Can Theater, which is a beautiful theater that I've had the privilege of seeing. I've seen Seven Samurai there twice. I've seen The Conversation and Rear Window there. But this week, or currently playing through to October 31st, is the 4K restoration of Tarsem Singh's The Fall, which I haven't seen, but I've heard good things, especially about the 4K restoration. And then I'm realizing some of these times are out of date. So this weekend, October 27th, they're playing Child's Play. October 28th, they're having their AV Club designation of Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. And on October 29th, they are having part of their wine and film series called Cork at the Can. They're showing The Silence of the Lambs on October 29th. So that's at the Can. Elsewhere in the city, opening this week is at the Living Room Theaters. They're opening, obviously, Venom: The Last Dance. We Live in Time is playing there, and Your Monster is playing as well. And Keystone Art is opening Conclave.
Okay.
So that's just a rundown. I'll have links in the show notes. And also, final thing on this segment, it was announced that the Alamo Drafthouse here in Indy, that is being opening soon, is going to open on Monday, November 18th, 2024. And they have a current promotion that if you sign up, I'll just read it. All you have to do is sign up for, you can get entries into potentially getting free movies for a year. So the kind of website says, all you have to do is sign up for Alamo Victory, and you'll be automatically entered for a chance to win 2 invites to our opening night party, an Alamo Drafthouse swag bag, and a year-long subscription to Season Pass for 2 that entitles you to 1 free ticket per person to any regularly priced movie every day. That's kind of incredible. But entries to that close on November 30th, and I'll have a link in the show notes as well. How do you guys feel about Alamo Drafthouse coming to Indy? Are you guys excited? How are we feeling about Alamo?
Yeah, it's exciting. I know that they do some fun themed events. I think one of their bits of regular programming is everyone brings their own movie choice, and nice. they pick some ones at random.
Oh.
I know that our colleague Nick Rogers went to an Alamo Drafthouse in which they did that. Nice. And it seems like, they always show older stuff, and I'm excited to have another sort of art house theater with hopefully decent sized screens. I think it's great that we have Can and Living Room, and I think Alamo will be a great addition to that.
Yeah. I'm excited too, and it's going to be within driving distance of my new home when that happens. So
nice.
Very cool.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, and it's going to be fun, to check it out and see what it's all about, and hopefully it's it lives up to the hype. It's gotten quite a bit of attention, recently, and of course on a national level they get a lot of attention, as far as from moviegoers. So it'll be a fun experience, and hopefully, and there is a little bit of a that I don't know about the area. It's kind of been a place where good movie theaters go to die. It's like there was. I think they're going into the location of the old Georgetown theater, which was a fun indie. They were a fun place that showed kind of offbeat kind of films from time to time, and it was locally owned and things like that. And then the Studio Movie Grill was kind of on at least close to the side of town. And that also kind of got it lasted almost 10 years, and it kind of got ran out too. But yeah, it'll be it's a place it's an area that needs something to spark it, and hopefully it kind of survives there. It seems like it's an up and coming area again.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of redevelopment stuff going on there. So kind of sucks because I didn't think about it when I was on that side of town recently. I should have gone by and just to look at it. But
yeah,
but I'm excited. Like the reputation of Alamo Drafthouse precedes it, obviously. Like they have a very specific reputation. I just want to be in a theater where I don't have to worry about people on their phones. And like that has me excited about Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah.
That's my barrier of entry for excitement for this. So, but I am excited. So that's opening November 18th, on the, west side of Indy. So like I said, we're going to be reviewing Woman of the Hour and Saturday Night, but I do have two pieces of news that I want to bring up before we get to the reviews. So, do you guys want to talk about a couple of news items that popped up recently?
Let's do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one is of zero surprise to anyone on the planet. Marvel's Blade removed from release calendar. It was supposed to come out in 2025, starring Mahershala Ali. They've gone through like 2 or 3 different directors, and it's now officially been removed from the release calendar. I have long said I don't know what the hell Marvel Studios is doing over the since Endgame. It has just been a mixed bag and a crapshoot of like poor direction in terms of having no clear like idea of where they're headed. And it's frustrating as a fan of this type of movie and this type of like blockbuster filmmaking. It's frustrating because like it feels like now Marvel and Star Wars, even though I'm not really a fan of Star Wars, like they just seem to be more based on like getting the excitement up with announcements and then no follow through. Like,
yeah,
it's so frustrating. So I don't know. What do you guys make of this news that Blade has been removed from the release calendar?
Well, it's sort of puzzling to me. I mean, it's like there's existing material. There's a lot of existing material, and it's not, there's 3 movies and a TV show, and it seems like with what they've done, they would be able to do something tenable. I kind of imagine Wesley Snipes' involvement in Deadpool and Wolverine kind of changed it a little bit, maybe being a hit, but I can't imagine that they didn't know that ahead of time. So I don't know. I think it is just kind of part and parcel of the weirdness that's going on over there. Kind of these days, they're not quite sure which direction to go, and there's a lot of wheel spinning and pivoting and shifting off to new areas, and it's like we gotta make some progress a little bit.
Yeah,
we're gonna do this whole thing again,
right? I don't know. And Sam, I know you're not really that big a fan of the Marvel movies or anything, but like, what do you make of this? Because I know, like, how do you feel?
Well, I'm not sure Blade is a character who's quite as conducive to the MCU style as other characters. He's a little harder edged. The material's more violent. And that's what I like about the character. So to me, the original Blade is kind of perfect. I mean, it's obviously dated now, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be touched or anything, but I just can't imagine. I imagine this being kind of a bloodless Blade, based on the tone and style of MCU's last few movies. But that's just my preconceived notion. That might not be fair, but I would love to see like if they are going for something harder edged, I would love that. That would get me more interested in the MCU. But the fact that they've scrapped it or shelved it for now doesn't surprise me. It's like maybe they have too much going on.
Yes.
Yeah. Like it's okay to kind of step away and develop things before rushing to announce them. Yeah.
Just having any kind of vision for what they were going to do. Like, it's just so, it is mind-boggling. It is so annoying to me. And I know there are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of collaborative pieces when it comes to making something as large scale as a cinematic universe, but like, God, like, just have an idea of where you're going. Like, I don't understand how they could have fumbled it this hard right out of the gate, out of Endgame. So,
well, I mean, the whole Jonathan Majors thing screwed it up a lot, but it's still,
yeah,
still, it could have been, they could have just recast. They didn't have to.
Would have been the easiest recasting imaginable, given the context of a multiverse saga. Like, oh my God, it's just so, and I know we've talked about this. I've talked about it in episodes past, but like, it's just, I don't understand. It's like Kevin Feige. I almost call him Paul Feig. Kevin Feige. It's like his deal with the devil to get the Infinity Saga completed and everything, like, ran out, or like he missed out on like re-upping his contract with the devil that he sold his soul to make that a complete saga and everything, and now he's just playing it by ear. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, you guys can crucify me for this if you want, but I thought the announcement that Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Doctor Doom just like reeked of desperation to me.
100%. It's like an idiot, I'm excited, but also like this being multiple years into the multiverse saga that had Kang at the center of it, and then them being like, oh wait, no, never mind, we're gonna bring back Robert Downey Jr., we're gonna bring back the Russo brothers. It's just oh my God, I don't know. Well,
at least Doctor Doom, I might be wrong, but he is a more recognizable villain. Like, I mean, I've never fucking heard of Kang before. And I realize I'm not a hardcore comic book fan, but still I've heard of Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, anyone who knows a little bit about comics knows Doctor Doom. So at least that's a step in a more sensical direction. Like, I just, I should probably stop talking.
That it should have been the direction from the start. And all the multiverse stuff just confounds everything. And I think there's just a combination of them trying to steal DC's thunder a little bit and kind of beat them to the punch, and which they have been doing for a decade. It's like they're the clear front runners, and it's just all, so it's just that, and then there's a couple of missteps that has just kind of spiraled, and now now all the excitement everyone had is just kind of a complete 180, and it's now we're just like doom and gloom. So,
but speaking of doom and gloom, in a positive way, from my perspective, do you want to go to the next piece of news that I have for this episode? So, just yesterday, as of this recording, it was announced that a Carrie TV series from Mike Flanagan is in the works at Amazon. Reading from Variety, quote, the series logline describes it as a, quote, bold and timely reimagining of the story of misfit high schooler Carrie White, who has spent her life in seclusion with her domineering mother. After her father's sudden and untimely death, Carrie finds herself contending with the alien landscape of public high school, a bullying scandal that shatters her community, and the emergence of mysterious telekinetic powers. Flanagan is going to write and executive produce the potential series with his company Intrepid Pictures. How do you guys feel about Mike Flanagan tackling Carrie as a series, maybe limited series, I'm not sure, for Amazon?
It could be a fun time. It's I mean, it's been done in the last decade, with the who did the remake? Was it Abigail Breslin did the remake?
Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah. And then before that, they also had in 2002 they had a made-for-TV thing. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's not it's not something that's been dying to be remade. Obviously, the original movie is terrific, and those are what they are. And I don't remember much about the Chloe Moretz one, other than I was like, yeah, okay, and I didn't see the 2002 one at all. So I mean, it's fun that Stephen King is hot again, and I hope that we get kind of updated versions of a lot of things / better versions of things that haven't quite hit. There's a lot of like timeless Stephen King things, but there's a lot of crap out there too that that could be remade. I haven't watched the Salem's Lot series yet, and I don't know. It's a movie. Seem to be setting the world on fire,
right?
But there are plenty of things. There's plenty of material to mine that even his earlier stuff that could be revisited in a good way. So I'm hoping that we get. I'd like to see more of that than I necessarily would, just remaking something else. But Carrie is one of his tent poles, so to speak. So hopefully they at least do a good job. And Mike Flanagan has had good luck in the past with his stuff. So I'll be there to check it out, I'm sure.
Nice.
But I don't know. I'm not dying about it. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's see it.
All right, Sam, do you want to either what is your response? Yeah.
I feel like Ben Affleck in the Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, when Henry Cavill is talking and he just says, I agree. Because no, I'm kidding. But I do feel like Joe pretty much nailed how I feel. I think it would be great if the series, obviously, well, I guess it wouldn't have to, but if it tapped more into being a coming of age story and dealt with her regular high school problems, or if it just went completely nuts and focused intensely on the telekinetic supernatural stuff, that'd be cool too. I don't know, like, I'm not jumping out of my skin for it. But I've enjoyed the stuff of Flanagan's that I've seen, so yeah, pretty much what Joe said.
Nice. I'm gonna put the wind back in my sails a little bit, and
oh no,
no, I'm kidding. No, I am clearly very invested in this. I'm very excited about it. I think Mike Flanagan understands Stephen King's work on a level that I don't think any other filmmaker, including Darabont to an extent. I don't think anyone has as strong a handle as Mike Flanagan has. Like, Darabont is as good as Flanagan, but Flanagan has had more opportunities and has dived into some of the most unadaptable stuff of Stephen King's and done incredible work. So I don't believe, like, I think Mike Flanagan is great at this kind of thing, obviously. But the thing that I just kind of realized as you guys were talking, I kind of put it together here. And this is going to be kind of a nerd out thing, but also a little bit of wishful thinking. So Mike Flanagan has this overall deal with Amazon. They took him away from Netflix. Now he's setting up shop at Amazon. Netflix, obviously, he has a great track record of making limited series horror series, as well as adapting Stephen King with Gerald's Game for Netflix. And he has proven himself to do this. Like, there are people, like, I see on freaking like threads and on social media saying, like, it's so weird that we don't have like a Mike Flanagan limited series this October. because like this is like a thing for people. And what I love about this news, twofold. One, I'm genuinely excited about the idea of someone adapting Carrie for a modern audience. Like there's a little bit of like that, 2013 there was the one with Chloe Grace Moretz that was fine. It was okay. It does touch on some of the like updated ideas of bullying and like what it's like to be a teenager of that era. But I think with someone as respectful and lovingly affected by Stephen King's work or works so well with it, having Mike Flanagan do this type of show, there's a lot of things going on in my brain right now about this news, because you have a great opportunity to just update it, tell this story of like bullying in a modern era, because it's kind of a universal coming of age story that involves telekinesis and bullying and just the absolute capacity for evil in teenagers is there as well. Like to have that updated to a modern audience could be gangbusters. The other thing I'm thinking is that I don't want it to be a series. I don't want it to be like a long-running multi-season series. My thought and hope is that Mike Flanagan is going to make it a limited series. And like what I would love to see, and you guys all know where I'm going with this, what I would love to see is Mike Flanagan doing Stephen King limited series at Amazon like he did with The Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Bly Manor. Like do what he did at Netflix, but for Amazon, but have it be for Stephen King stuff, making the limited series, because I know what he wants to do, the thing that he wants to do and that I believe he will achieve is to adapt The Dark Tower. And I'm not saying I want all of these things to interconnect into The Dark Tower, but I just love the idea that, okay, if he's going to take Carrie, one of the like Mount Rushmore, like iconography of Stephen King's work, the first novel that he published, the thing that made him a household name with his first published novel, if he's going to adapt that for Amazon, and if people like it, like they did the Netflix stuff, he's going to make the fucking Dark Tower. And I will weep tears of joy just like I did. Well, not tears of joy, but like I will weep tears just like I did when reading the Dark Tower series like many years ago. So anyway, I love
Jeez, Joe, we're a couple of jerks. we're both like,
we're shitting all over Matt's dreams.
Might be fine. And then he launches into this passionate manifesto.
Meanwhile,
he's got the 10-year plan mapped out. The SKU now.
Oh my God! Don't threaten me with a good time.
Listen, I love Stephen King. I'll take that.
It was weird because Joe, I at one point in the video, like he kind of turned away, and I thought that I saw a bottle that he had while I was talking. But nice. But I'm excited. I don't care. I'm excited. I just don't want it to be like a long running series or anything. And I do like. It does say that he's going to executive produce and write it, so it doesn't necessarily say that he's going to direct it like he did with the other ones. But I want it to be like that's my vision for it. So, Mike Flanagan, if you're listening, please make it happen and talk to me. Yeah. So that's all the news I have.
All right.
Do we want to get into our first review of the evening, the feature review, Woman of the Hour? Let's dive into it. Now, Joe is going to be here for this, and then he's going to leave when we go to Saturday night. So just forewarning, soak up the Joe that you get in this episode while you can. So for our feature review tonight, we're going to do, of course, a non-spoiler review and spoiler review. I'll play a clip from the trailer when we switch over to spoilers. Otherwise, you can go to the website, obsessiveviewer.com/OV445 for timestamps, and also in your podcast app that you're listening to, you can find timestamps to navigate around spoilers and whatnot. So, Woman of the Hour. Premiered on Netflix October 18th. It is the directorial debut of Anna Kendrick, written by Ian McDonald. The premise, according to IMDb, is Cheryl Bradshaw, a single woman looking for a suitor on a hit 1970s TV show, chooses charming bachelor Rodney Alcala, unaware that behind the man's gentle facade, he hides a deadly secret. The cast includes Anna Kendrick, Daniel Zovato, Tony Hale, Nicolette Robinson, Pete Holmes, and Autumn Best. Gentlemen, we are in the non-spoiler review for Woman of the Hour. What did you guys think of this movie from Anna Kendrick?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was... What's so funny, Joe?
Nothing. I just thought you were about to, like, couch it and be like, I thought it sucked.
Oh, no.
He was like, yeah. So I'm glad to hear you liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sam, I just got my wind back in my sails. Please don't do it to me.
Oh, no. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a very impressive debut from Anna Kendrick. It has a really interesting structure, kind of juxtaposing the backstory of this serial killer with his appearance on the dating game, but actually more juxtaposing his story with the story of this woman and kind of showing the disturbing parallels between his crimes against women and the sort of casual societal degradation of women in everyday life, in show business. I thought the acting was great. I really appreciated how the movie didn't shy away from exposing the predatory nature of men. Yeah. All of the male characters are predatory in some way, even the nicer ones like Pete Holmes, Anna Kendrick's neighbor in the movie.
Yeah.
I liked how it contrasted her everyday nightmarish encounters with men against these more heightened nightmare scenarios with the killer. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm the same way. I think that it was the number one. This is a true story. Rodney Alcala was a real killer. He really did go on the dating game with Cheryl Bradshaw, and they. I don't know how much of their interactions as depicted in the movie are real outside of the show, but it's a fascinating movie, and Anna Kendrick really does this. She really creates a movie that is more than just that kind of splashy, sensational kind of, movie premise, so to speak. Like it's sort of a ready-made movie premise that happened in real life. And it's really just kind of the centerpiece of the movie. That's not even the real story, because it's really it's really a movie about women and about how men prey on them, as to Sam's point. And each of the victims kind of get their own little mini arc, and are, you get little glimpses into their vulnerabilities and how he exploits them, and how that allows him to murder them, basically. And what we really don't get is a lot of background on him, which is, which I kind of fits into our narrative these days, which, was back in the day. It's like these serial killers are fascinating, aren't they? And now it's like, let's not give serial killers or, mass shooters and, that kind of, those kind of people the time of day. Let's focus on the victims. And that's what Anna Kendrick does here, is focus on the people that he's victimized. And and we don't get that, that bits of sympathy and empathy we're supposed to have for him. We're not supposed to have that for him, because we don't see him as a child being abused or
Right.
whatever. He's out there. He's a wolf running around on the streets, and we see the people that he is targeting more than anything. And Anna Kendrick's involvement is it's hard to even call her the main character of the movie, because I mean she's in it quite a bit, and she's certainly the most recognizable star in the movie. But there are entire sequences that she's not involved in at all, and it's pretty refreshing because it's a movie about women. It's not a movie about Anna Kendrick, the movie star, or even, as I said, the serial killer himself. It's about these women and how men. How society has been set up for men to victimize them as they please, and we as a society kind of just perpetually either set them up for that. We don't believe them when they tell us things, and there's an entire character with her own little, again, another mini arc, a character who is just there to point out this guy as a scumbag, and she gets the runaround, and she gets people who don't believe her and who are placating her, and it's a shame on you kind of movie, in that sense, but it's also a pretty snappy and swiftly moving kind of thriller as well. So it's very it's worth watching. You guys watch it. Go watch it.
Yeah, a ringing endorsement from Joe Shearer. I agree. This was not the movie I expected it to be, and it was one of those situations where, thank God it wasn't. So, like, I went into this just knowing basically the log line, just like, oh, this is a movie about a serial killer who is on the dating show or the dating game or whatever. Yeah, and it's like I went in expecting like, oh, this is going to be this like very like tight thriller that is like going to be about Anna Kendrick like basically using her role in the game show to keep him on his toes so that the police can go. Like I was thinking like Trap, but with the dating show or dating game or whatever. And what we get is such a smarter and kind of just really smart and socially conscious movie, because that through line throughout the entire run of the movie where this is about women and about women not being taken seriously, about women not having like a voice in situations that are killing them, like having like these having to placate men or having to walk on eggshells around men, just to get them off their back. Like there's so much subtlety to it throughout the movie that is also amplified by those interstitial things that depicts the crimes, the murders that he's committing. And it's always just like, it's really, really, disturbing. Like that opening one, I'm kind of afraid to look up how much is true and how much is fiction, because like that opening scene, that I won't really give away anything, but like the way that he commits this murder is like on a level that is heartbreaking and disturbing, and it just says everything about what this individual and like him being the stand-in for like toxic masculinity and the patriarchy and everything, how women are viewed. And something I also really loved about it was that this takes place throughout the 70s. Like these like bits and pieces here like take place in the 70s, and it's still like a universal thing. It's still something that women have to fight for today. And like, I'm just, I don't know. I've sat with it and I rated it 3 stars, but I feel like that's going to bump up a little bit as we continue talking throughout it. But I'm just so glad that us 3 men can join together and talk about this movie.
Yeah.
So anything else? Like what else in non-spoilers should we dive into with this movie?
Yeah. I mean, if we want to look at the, some of the more technical things, I suppose, less narrative driven. The aesthetic is really cool. The game show set especially it's a lot of fun, and it's a whole different it's a whole different vibe than the rest of the movie. Is when they're on the game show. It's bright and colorful, and there's, you know, these like heart flower things like on the, which is, and you know, like this, the silly font of the, you know, the title in the background. It's, you know, it's very Hollywood and show busy, and it kind of has that, it's kind of that facade, right? And it, in a way, kind of a metaphor for Hollywood itself, as, you know, as a tool of victimization.
Yeah.
And it's kind of important to mention with respect to Anna Kendrick's character that and even the IMDb logline was a little misleading. Like, she wasn't looking for love. She was an actor. She was an aspiring actor who thought this appearance on this stupid show would let her get some exposure, and would, you know, she'd get acting jobs and things. And her character is a lot of fun because she's smarter than just about everyone else in the movie. She breaks that out. She holds it back at first because she's going on, and they're like, oh, just kind of sit there and be pretty and read the cards. And she tires of that real fast, and she ends up kind of going off, and she really humiliates the other two bachelors that she's interviewing, so to speak, because they can't keep up with her questions. They don't understand the things she's talking about. And at one point, she's like in a quasi argument with one of the bachelors because he's like, you know, she asks this very, very simple question about women, like what women's purposes are. And he can't answer. And he points out, well, I can't say anything because it's going to be wrong. And it's like, well, not really. But it reveals a whole lot about you that you will think this. So there's a lot of fun to be had during that section of the film. But it also is just sort of a real slow build of tension that kind of pays off later on, as, you know, after the show is done and we're outside in the dark, and, you know, with this person we know is a serial killer, and Anna Kendrick's character Cheryl does not. So it's really an interesting dynamic. And again, as we go along, we're building in these other stories. So we know, like, just how much of an unimaginable bastard this guy is.
Yeah. And
it just ends up kind of in a whole overarching way being fascinating. And it, you know, and in a way that it's unconventionally conventional, I guess, in that way. Like it shows, it's not, and that's what I wrote in my review, was that she's, in some sense, she's blazing a trail, and in some sense, she's kind of doing things, you know, she's making a movie that's not an unusual movie. This is a movie, serial killer movies are made often, women versus serial killers are made often, but what she does is make it women as a collective group versus men. And that's, and it's interesting, and she does it without coming off in a way that would turn people off, that would specifically more conservative people, that's kind of what I'm shooting at. This is a good movie for the masses that teaches a good important lesson, and is not, quote, in your face, which is a term I hate. With respect to these sorts of things, but it gets the point across very well.
It's a good tool against, like, it's a good litmus test for people who are people who feel threatened when, like, the topic of toxic masculinity comes up, and without any self-awareness that your reaction to people talking about the patriarchy and toxic masculinity is clearly proving the point, and you're too dumb to kind of and figure that out.
And that's the thing, is that Anna Kendrick makes a smart movie that dumb people can still watch and hopefully get something from.
Yeah. And like I said, that through line of just, like, the relationship between men and women and those, like, gender dynamics at play, it is kind of all encompassing, because you get, like, these little bits and pieces here and there, like, where, like, there are big moments where, you know, women aren't listened to, and, like you said, are given the runaround, and are, like, they can't be defended or can't be guided, or not guided, but can't be, like, helped in any way, because they're just not willing to be, like, the people that are in positions of power aren't willing to help them. And then there are like little bits where, like, the thing with Pete Holmes, when they are at the bar and then you see the aftermath of him making a move, and it just, like, it sits, like, you know exactly why that is, like, why, we can talk about that in spoilers, but, like, why that's just a sad and demoralizing kind of run of events, because it is robbing her of her choice and her agency in favor of having an awkward relationship with the one person in the city that she's friends with. So yeah, I don't know. Sam, how do you feel? Sam, what is a woman? What is a woman's purpose? What's the point of women?
I mean, I know you're kidding, but that actually sort of leads perfectly to a point I wanted to make, which was, I like how the movie shows the killer kind of using the language of the time to gain the trust of Anna Kendrick's character. He kind of, like, uses the vernacular of the women's liberation movement to kind of prey on her. Like, he's obviously a sociopath, and he, despite the awful things he does to women, he kind of knows the right things to say to be socially acceptable. He's basically virtue signaling on the dating game by, you know, giving these answers that are very respectful toward women, or at least they appear to be. And, you know, obviously his actions betray his words. But that kind of gets you thinking about today, you know, when our sort of language of social sensitivity is so out there on social media. It's like guys like this killer are still around because they can see, you know, what's right and what they can use to kind of prey upon their victims, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the predatory nature of it. It, like, there was something I was going to say about the stuff. Like, I didn't look up the true story of it by any means or anything, so I don't know how much of Cheryl Bradshaw's appearance on the game show is accurate, or how much of that is Anna Kendrick, like, using her as a vessel for kind of the meaning and the point of the story. Because it is incredibly powerful, like, just her dismantling their shit, and also, like, the game show itself, like, how that operates and everything. Like, it's an interesting thing. Like, I would love it if, like, Cheryl Bradshaw was, like, just as, like, no nonsense, as tenacious, as like, cutting of them in the moment. But I would also not be surprised if this was something that is to further show the purpose of the meaning behind the movie, and kind of inject kind of modern shifts in the way that, you know, women are viewed into this period setting. And also, there is some, like, I don't have the time or inclination to really dive into this, but, like, it kind of fascinates me to think about the way that predatory male sociopaths are depicted throughout history and film, and how the seas have changed in the last 10 years or so. Because there were moments when, throughout this movie, where we get Rodney Alcala's, like, his charm, like, slithering charm, that is clearly, like, he's saying all the right things, he's doing all the right things, and he's being very assertive and to the point of being domineering and predatory. We see those in this 2024 movie. And I kept thinking about, like, there was one scene in, I mean, I'm sure there were several scenes like this, but like the one scene in Nightcrawler in 2014, I think, where Jake Gyllenhaal he's having like an episode, like he's yelling at Rene Russo, and this it stands out because it's such a powerful moment where he's reprimanding her, he's yelling at her because of something that I don't remember the context, like she didn't, like the news station didn't play his video, something like that, and then he's just like, and when I want to do something in bed, you will do it. Like I don't want you to back up or back out or anything. And like, because up to that point, we don't know that there's any kind of romantic relationship or any kind of physical relationship there. And like, that kind of scene is so, like, I don't know what connection I'm making to Woman of the Hour really, but like, just to see the growth of how that's depicted, like even in like the wake of the Me Too movement and Time's Up, all of that, seeing that like little sliver of a scene in Nightcrawler, and then having like full movies about this societal kind of predatory nature and industry stuff is, I don't know, there is a letterbox list to be made that charts like toxic masculinity in film, and how it's depicted. But yeah, I've got podcasts to make, so I can't do it. Yeah, I just wanted to make that connection.
I actually, while you were talking, I looked up some of the stuff that I'll save it for spoilers because it obviously reveals some of the outcomes of the movie. But there are some similarities. It seems like there's a lot of overlap with what really happened. Nice. Versus what was depicted. Although some stuff has been, I think, left out. I think numbers, for example, are different than what's depicted in the movie. Although they do give the stats at the end, but but anyway, we'll move on to spoilers, I think, before I get into this too much.
Yeah. And speaking of the ending and stuff, like, there was a typo in the kind of card at the end, which I believe has been corrected.
Has it? Okay. Yeah. There were several, and also, and I had a hard time writing my review because I couldn't get the right spelling of Cheryl Bradshaw's name, and in the end credits and the little I don't know what do you call the epigraphs at the end. They spell her name Cheryl, and then in the credits she's Cheryl with an SH.
That's right.
And even when I looked, even if you do a Google search of Cheryl Bradshaw, if you spell it if you spell it one way, I think with an SH, it's like, do you mean this with a CH? And then there's a bunch of, but it's oddly inconsistent, how her name is spelled. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what the correct spelling is. On my review, we went with CH. But I do know at one point also, this movie, I think when Anna Kendrick came on, was titled Cheryl and Rodney, and Cheryl was with an SH. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's how you spell her name. And then I've since then not been able to find a consistent spelling of it.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. Sam, anything about the typos and lack of proofreading?
Well, I just think this movie sucks. Clearly.
Obviously, they can't even spell names right.
Honestly, that's like oddly comforting to me that this movie made by, well-respected actress and well-respected filmmakers has little typos in it that like makes me feel better about my stupid bullshit.
Sure.
It can happen to all of it.
Yeah, yes. I was looking it up because like there was one typo that I verified was corrected when I watched it last night. In those like kind of epigraph things, they misspelled authorities. It was authorites.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I wanted to make sure that was right. So I Googled it just now, and like, I think this is interesting. It's from Daily Mail. But like, this is a weird, I don't know. Let me just read this headline in context of like, Joe, what you were saying about like not giving the monster of the movie like due and having it focus on women. The headline at Daily Mail is eagle-eyed Netflix viewers spot infuriating typo in new Rodney Alcala movie Woman of the Hour. Like just identifying it as a Rodney Alcala movie is a little dicey there, I think, but
yeah.
But yeah. In terms of production and other stuff we can talk about in non-spoilers, how did you feel about Anna Kendrick, both behind and in front of the camera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she did a great job. To be honest, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit in the spoilers, but I kind of I don't want to criticize her, but I kind of felt like, to me, this was a 4-star movie that could have very easily been a 4.5-star movie. And I think she made a couple of rookie mistakes that I'm going to downplay quite a bit, because she did a very good job on this movie. There are a couple of little things that kind of kept it from being a little bit better. And I think these are things that I certainly think she's going to direct more films. And I think that she'll become, if she does, I think she'll become kind of a regular, if not a kind of a heavyweight. I think there's just a couple of like little tiny filmmaking things for her to go after, but I thought her perspective was fantastic. And I think that the final product, the finished product of this movie was very good. That one silly typo, or maybe 2 typos notwithstanding, right. That's a silly mistake that she didn't make, that someone else, that was someone else's job to catch that didn't catch it.
Yeah.
But, I'd feel like she did a great job, and I think she has a bright future. And I feel like an asshole for being critical of her because she made a really good movie.
Yeah. So in other words, you're saying that if a man had directed this, it would have been a 5-star movie.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. My ultimate point there was she did a good job for a girl. So yeah.
Jesus Christ. Sam, how'd you feel about Anna Kendrick's work here?
I thought it was a very impressive debut. Like I said, the movie is structured in a very interesting way. She plays with editing in a cool way. There's transitions between her character and Rodney's victims that is handled really creatively, and the transitions are really seamless and fitting. The last like 30 minutes of the movie are incredibly tense. I think she maintains a really, moody, ominous atmosphere. I was impressed with that. I'm eager to see what she does next.
Yeah, me too. I'll echo everything you guys have said. Like, I think that this is a very impressive debut, and I'm curious to hear the issues that you had, Joe. But I mean, there are some things there didn't really work well for me all that much. But for the most part, everything else about this movie worked really well. And I agree, Sam, the way that she plays with the timeline, or does like it jumps back and forth in terms of showing just like these interstitials of him with one of his victims. And I think that is just so, it's such a smart way to keep the overall point of the movie, the kind of thesis statement of the movie, it being about women in our society that is just so messed up. Like, it keeps that at the forefront, while also focusing on the victims and telling like the victim stories. I know that in the trivia it said that she had some trouble trying to pick which victims to kind of highlight and show. But I think that what we get is this just really interesting, like wide view of what this type of thing I don't know what the purpose of this movie is, and the story that she's telling, the messages that she's delivering to us are all encompassing through these interstitials, while also honoring the victims and not giving any kind of like highlight to the monster at the center of it. Because a lot of times when we have like true crime stories, and one of the things that just bothers me about that entire genre and why I don't really listen to like true crime podcasts or anything, is like that bloodlust, that idea that like, oh, I want to feel fear about this person who met a terrible end, I want that to raise my blood pressure. Instead, this has a little bit of that, but it's for a purpose. It's for a purpose to tell a story about how women function, or how they are treated in not just the 70s, but in our modern era. So I just think it's a really, really smart balancing act and really good messaging.
Yeah. Agree. I'll just say agree.
Nice.
I do think it's... Oh, sorry. I'm just going to jump in real quick.
Oh, yeah. Go right ahead.
I do think it's very tasteful about what it shows in terms of the grislier material. Sometimes those scenes are really graphic, but I think the brutality serves a purpose. But I think it does a good job of not showing so much that it veers into sensationalism.
Yeah. I agree. Shall we go into spoilers for Woman of the Hour?
Yes.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm going to play a clip from the trailer from the movie. Before we do that, what is your rating for this movie? Once again, you guys on Letterboxd, Joe, who can be found on Letterboxd at Joe R. Shearer. What did you rate this?
Yeah, I gave this 4. I believe I gave it a solid 4 out of 5, but it's not. Oh, yes. I didn't, because I watched it early and I didn't. But yes, it's a 4-star movie for me. It's one of my top 10 at the moment. Nice. I like I said, I think it was very close to being a 4.5, maybe a 5. But I think it needed a little something extra. Like I said, we'll talk about that more later.
Sure. Yeah. And Sam, Movie Man on Letterboxd, what did you rate Woman of the Hour?
I went with 3.5. I'm kind of wrestling with bumping it up to 4. It's like one of those movies where it's right on the edge between 3.5 and 4 for me. And I can't quite articulate like why it doesn't go into 4-star territory. Like I don't have a specific reason. I just felt like it was missing like something that kind of kept me from a higher rating.
Nice. Well said. I will kind of just basically agree with you across the board for that. I rated it 3.5 stars. I just looked and it was 3.5 stars, not 3. I think coming out of it, the biggest thing is I want to see more of Anna Kendrick's directing, because I think she did a phenomenal job. So, yeah. But now we're going to do a phenomenal job of going into spoilers for Woman of the Hour. Once again, it is streaming on Netflix. I'm going to play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Woman of the Hour.
Live from the Chapter stages in Hollywood, it's the dating game.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Woman of the Hour.
Let the games begin.
Bachelor number 1. This is nice and easy. What are girls for?
What do you mean?
Just what I said. I believe in you, Bachelor number 1.
That's good.
All right, so spoilers on for Woman of the Hour. Once again, it's streaming on Netflix as of October 18th. Let's dive in. Spoilers for the movie. I'll kind of get us kicked off just really quick and say that I was glad that I didn't I didn't read anything about it. I don't know the story or anything. So like in those last 30 minutes where Cheryl is having that conversation with Rodney, and he's trying to lure her out and everything, like that kind of game that they play, that kind of just deadly tense game that they play is so it's so tense and really, really well crafted from the moment she shakes her head no to the bartender or to the waitress so that she knows not to give her an out, basically, to just like that kind of that incredibly powerful moment where she's just like, I'm not going anywhere with you. I like this is not happening. So I don't know. I just really liked those last 20, 30 minutes. But yeah, spoilers for Woman of the Hour.
Yeah. I think that I think that stuff was all really terrific. And I think where those whole scenes, where you can see her, number one, she's using those tricks. And, this is something that I've had a lot of conversations about with my fiance, for example. She right before we came on said that we needed a woman on the show. And she said to me, have you ever put your car keys between your fingers walking outside at night? And I was like, well, yes. And she's like, well, I've done that many times.
Yeah. And,
she's like, this is a regular occurrence for me. And for many other women, like basically every woman she talks to, it's, and that's such a telling thing that, you can kind of see some of that depicted here, that Cheryl is that woman, right? Who tries to be aware of her surroundings, and she has a feeling about Rodney. And here's where I'll be as critical as I want to be about the movie.
Sure.
Is that I feel like the scene, there's a switch. There's a moment where the switch flips for her, and she realizes that he is a creep. And I didn't catch it from him. I didn't catch it, but she did. And I do wish that she had. I think that the opportunity she had in this movie is to really hammer that home, how common an occurrence this kind of thing is. That women have to be this way in order to stay safe. And I feel like she didn't sell that moment exactly right. And it's just little subtle things that I think she could have done. But I wish that she had, in a way that would have undoubtedly, I mean, it's one thing for us to know, oh, well, yeah, this guy's a serial killer and she's avoiding him. But it would be another thing if he had been, if he'd made a statement about being a nice guy, or, done something that kind of calls back to the more modern parlance, where, incels and people of that ilk who have this aggression toward women, and who basically are the reason women are scared, why they pick the bear, to use a phrase that's been in popular culture recently, is because of people like this, who seem like they're good guys, who then aren't. And, a woman has to rely on their wits and their, back in the day, we called it women's intuition, and it's a real thing, but it's just that being able to suss out something that is problematic or dangerous, potentially, just a weird feeling, a spider sense, so to speak. And I wish that she had done a couple of more things. I feel like she made a movie for women, that men should watch and can watch. But I think if she had been a little more like, I'm going to make a movie for men to understand how ridiculous we all are collectively, I think she could have done that. And I think it would have taken just one or two very minor things. that would have really punctuated that. And again, explained it like, explained it like you would to a 5-year-old child.
Yeah.
Which I think would have been, which would have had just a touch more impact, just enough, like I said, to get, for me to be like, oh my God, this is like a transcendent movie. And I think this comes so close to being that, through all the other things that I said, that we've said earlier, that we've talked about. But if we want to go through briefly the story, the real life.
Yeah, but real quick, I want to kind of touch on something you said there.
We'll go. Yeah, go ahead, and I'll come back to this.
Yeah. Just real quick, like that switch that happens. There's this moment that I feel like maybe I'll revisit the movie and kind of reassess like where I stand with it. But like, there's a moment where it's after the contestants have been brought out and after the show has been over, and it's after Rodney has like freaked out the other bachelor, like bachelor number 1, I think. And like when like he hugs her, when bachelor 1 hugs her, he like whispers like a warning saying like, be careful with that asshole.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like that while it's good to have that there. It's good to have that kind of balance of having like, it's not every turn of the movie, like women are viewed as being hysterical or being like like not being taken seriously or anything. But on the other hand, it also feels like that I would be curious to see how that line ended up in the script. Like what went into that, if that was something that's like it isn't this, but it feels like partially like, did this movie just not all men this? Like, is this like hashtag not all men? Because like that feels like it didn't really sit that well with me. I don't know what the inner workings of that for the movie was, but it kind of, while it is a well done scene, well done kind of point in the narrative, it feels kind of like it chips just a little bit away from the overall messaging of the movie. So yeah.
And if there had been, there's another thing and I'm going to go to that moment that I think your point is spot on. Because again, I don't know how. I guess the thing I took from that was, it's hard to trust anyone. Like that guy, he sort of came off as douchey earlier. Then he made that little thing. I was like, oh, like, and that's, I think that's some of the point, is that just, it's hard to know who you can really trust. And it's hard to judge who is who, because you really don't know until you know someone intimately. Yeah. Or, and I don't mean that in a sexual way. I just mean, have a closer relationship with them. Obviously something that the dating game can't do.
Right.
I wish there had been something like I said, a very subtle thing. Maybe there was, the Pete Holmes character who kind of came and went. He disappeared and then he came back at the very end, and it felt tacked on. But I wish that if he had been a little more creepy, and there had been, I don't know, like something with his mouth or something with his eye that they could have honed in on, that was like an indication that he can't be trusted. And then she sleeps with him, as she does, she spends the night with him, obviously sleeps with him, and then he disappears. And then there's an awkward exchange at the end. But I wish that he had been a little more like, I'm trying to like bag this chick, kind of attitude. And maybe he does something, has some like weird smile or smirk that she then recognizes in Rodney Alcala later on. Like that would have punctuated. It would have been just a touch more. And like I said, it's such a small little nothing thing that would have made a big difference to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like that's the sort of moment that I wanted.
Okay.
I really love the moment with the woman who is doing her makeup during the commercial breaks too. And that was kind of the real moment, the we're in this together moment. Was that, she said it was she made the comment about the one that can hurt you, the one that won't hurt you is like the one that can.
Yeah. Sam, thoughts?
Honestly, I thought that it needed a moment like the Bachelor whispering in her ear.
Okay.
Because,
God, you're just coming after me this episode, man.
well, no, I feel like it's already pretty heavy-handed with all of the male characters being predatory. Like, at one point, even one of the women's moving guys, won't help her with furniture. It's like it gets a little heavy-handed with that.
Sure.
So I feel like you got to have something. Like, and I feel like the guy whispering in her ear is small enough. Like, I didn't take that as a not all men moment, or I guess I took it as like you got to throw the audience some kind of bone with like one of the men not being a complete creep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, I think another, well, and plus there's a practical reason for him saying that, because I think the killer shows him a Polaroid of a cut up woman.
Yeah.
But there's also another character whose girlfriend tells him that she recognizes Bachelor number 3 as Rodney Alcala, and he kind of gives the typical excuses, are you sure he's the guy?
Yeah. Right.
Why wouldn't he have been caught by now? Why would he be on a major show? And then there's a moment later of him kind of realizing his wrongs and making it up to her. Like, I feel like those are very small concessions.
Yeah.
I don't think it goes too out of its way to show like the antithesis of the serial killer. Like, it shows guys being good without overemphasizing them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it throws very sort of small bones to the audience of, so I guess that's what I would argue a little bit.
That's a very fair point. And kind of to the point of Pete Holmes' character, I'll give you some friction on that. Well, I'll share my opinion of that, Joe. I think that was kind of perfect, the way it was done, specifically because he doesn't come across as a predatory person in the conventional sense, or in comparison to Rodney, because he's a guy who, like, there's a read of this movie where he's just a guy who has a crush on her, and he makes a move, and this is in a moment after she has told him, like, oh, you're my only friend in the city, and like there's that kind of vulnerability that they share, and then when he makes his move, there's not much scene after that, but we see that she has slept with him, and it just feels like such a powerful moment, because this is her kind of just this is her bargaining like her well-being, her emotional well-being for the sake of a friendship. And like that, I don't know, that just kind of, I feel like was such a great small point in the movie that is just in keeping with like the whole scope of it in a really good way. And just like when they have that scene in the hallway, it's like I think that that's so kind of beautiful in its subtlety, the way that now, like, they haven't talked or anything, that friendship's over, that relationship is over and everything, and now she is like, she moves out of his way, or she moves to get away from him. That's like this like symbolic thing that like, he is on a probably different level, like a predatory person in her life that she can now have nothing to do with. And it's not on her to do that. It's not her fault. It's just the way that, the way that, she and women, many women could be, God, I just had the word like
Taken advantage
conditioned. Conditioned to act, and like because like there's no, and it also speaks well to the arc of her character throughout it that like she's like overhearing and being told directly like this shitty stuff from the casting people. There's even that like line of dialogue where she mentions that I think it was in reference to Pete Holmes's character that, you know, he is getting her all these auditions, I think that was the case. Maybe I misread it, but so like there's that kind of back and forth like that like subtext of like, oh, you owe me, but I'm not being creepy directly. Right. It's just like, you know, I'm going to make a move, even though like it's a lot of interesting power dynamics at play. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of brilliant, honestly. So
yeah. The power dynamics are, is a good way to put it. And that's, it's a complicated thing that women go through because there's a lot of things that, and you know, and I'm not advocating that Pete Holmes' character has changed or anything, but
oh no,
there's the power dynamics of a woman, especially in that time frame. That, you know, you think about casting couches and, you know, the expectations of that, and it's sometimes implicit or not even implicit. It's, you know, maybe sometimes women take it that way. They're willing to do that because they look at it as a necessity. You know, in terms of like sleeping with him, like they feel like there's an expectation of flirting or throwing something at, you know, throwing them a bone, so to speak. Yeah. And I would have liked to have seen that played up a little more, and it could even have been a smaller thing where he was being slightly disingenuous, and then when and that could have been a motif even. And I'm like mansplaining the movie to her, you know, like, but. These are just like little things that would have been, to me, I would have been like, oh my God, that was so cool. Like, you know, the same thing, like Pete Holmes does it at the beginning, and then Tony Hale does it. And then like one of the bachelors, we see them do it, even though she doesn't see it, but then she sees it in him and it's like, oh my God, this guy's a creep. And, you know, and it would make it something that's more visual for us as stupid men. To recognize it, but let me, you know, to Sam had his point earlier, so I think it's a good segue, even though I'm several minutes late, to talk about the real case. Let me tell you about this sumbitch. This guy was on the FBI's most wanted list in 1971. Okay, he was arrested, extradited. Was he convicted? He was convicted and paroled in 1974. He was in 3 years. In jail, because for rape and attempted murder, child molestation is what he was convicted of. He was released, and then he was on the show in 1978. So this guy had been on the FBI, and this is a testament to the 70s, if anything, is that he was on the FBI's most wanted list in 1971, and on 1978 he was on TV on a game show.
Yeah,
you know, like that's something. And it makes that, you know, that one arc with the one woman who was in the audience, that makes that a lot more of a, you know, of a kind of a realistic thing. So yeah. And then, in real life, he murdered 3 women after he was on the show. And he did win the competition in a date with Cheryl Bradshaw, and she refused to go out with him because she found him, quote, creepy. Yeah, and then like I said, he went on to kill 3 women, and a criminal profiler even kind of speculated that him rejecting her, you know, the date on the show may have kind of exacerbated him, and led him to kill these additional 3 women.
Oh wow!
Which is just kind of putting it on her a little bit,
right?
There's a thing there, but there is a point to it, you know, where, you know, she rejected him, and it would have made him angry, and maybe, you know, he did, you know, maybe he lashed out because of that. But he was, of course, he was captured, and he was found guilty of murder, sentenced to death. He was not put to death. He died, but he did die in prison in 2021. So he actually is very famous among serial killers. he was compared to Ted Bundy at the time, who was obviously still killing people.
Mhm.
He was investigated as the Hillside Strangler, but they kind of because he was a known sex offender.
Mhm.
Again, sign of the times. He was a known sex offender, and the dating game couldn't or didn't identify him as such.
Jesus.
So that's the 70s, man.
Yep.
Well, that show itself was so like misogynistic. And,
Yeah, it was sort of sleazy on its own.
Yeah.
So like that's what's so scary about the whole situation in the movie is like they're already tolerating this behavior and, and airing it on national television. So
and that's again is the part of a lot of the kind of the brilliance of the movie is that that's such a it's just such a meat market kind of mentality, kind of a couple up with someone, just find somebody who's the closest to you and jump on board and don't worry about anything else. That's kind of the whole attitude about it was, women are just looking for a good man and a good man just looking for a good woman, and it's like, what happens when one of them is, as terrible as one could possibly be.
Yep. This could bump up to a 4-star movie for me. Honestly, it was good. Anything else in spoilers do we want to dive into or dig into?
No, go see this movie.
Yes.
Fire up Netflix and check this movie out if you're listening.
Yes.
If you are of the male persuasion who has ever, blamed women for your troubles, watch and take notes and understand that. Oh, also, if you've ever called yourself a nice guy and claim that women don't want you for that reason, understand that maybe you're the asshole after all.
Yes.
Say that as someone who's been there.
Yeah. There is.
You can stop yelling at me, Joe.
I'm not looking directly at Sam, but
Sure.
I sort of am. No, that's not true at all. Sam is a wonderful guy.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, man. I wasn't fishing, but thank you.
Yeah. But to any women listening, be careful with that asshole.
Right.
Joking. I did want to mention, I kind of alluded to it in the non-spoiler thing, but just the disturbing nature of that first kill where he fucking resuscitates her.
Yeah.
Like,
that was rough.
That
also is real as depicted in this discussion.
That is fucking heartbreak. Like, I can't, for a movie that isn't by design and rightfully so, doesn't sensationalize the crimes, is in keeping like it is victim first. It is taking it like it is its message through and through. Like that, just having like seeing that depicted, it leaves such a foul taste in my mouth, and like it really sets the stage that yes, this is a monster through and through. Like this is, it was fucked up. It was fucked up.
Well, and maybe even worse is the younger girl at the end.
Yes,
that survives and kind of like she pretends like things just got out of hand. Like she also knew that, and that's maybe the worst of all of them. And we haven't even, and I just thought about it again.
Yeah.
Is that, he assaults this young woman who seems younger than the others. And she basically wakes up from being, from blacking out because he has strangled her and he just didn't finish the job. And she talks him in, she's like, oh yeah, like, she kind of gives him that promise of like, you're my man now. And, things got a little rough last night and got a little out of hand, but why don't we go have breakfast? And then, she basically outsmarts him, which is sort of out of character in one sense because he's so smart. He's shown as being like really clever and ahead of everyone, but he kind of lets his ego get the best of him, and is like, oh man, like she's still into me even after I, like almost murdered her. And he's like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, let's go play house a little more, let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. And she, of course she gets herself an opportunity and takes off, and in the movie it's sort of that leads to him being arrested. I don't know if that's I have in glossing over this Wikipedia entry, I don't see anything similar to that, but I do in one sense hope that's the case, but in another sense, because it means that another woman escaped and lived. But I don't know that it is or not. I don't know that that's historically accurate. Yeah,
it's an interesting kind of bookend in a sense to Cheryl's situation with Terry, played by Pete Holmes. It's like the most horrific extrapolation of that, but I think that strengthens the messaging of the movie tenfold for me. Any final thoughts on Woman of the Hour?
That's all I got. Go see this.
Yes.
Watch it and come and mention it.
Nice. Sam?
Yeah, the same. This is definitely worth checking out on Netflix.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. I agree, and I can't wait to see what Anna Kendrick does next. And that'll do it for our featured review tonight. And we're going to bid adieu to Joe Shearer, as he has not seen Saturday Night.
Asking me to leave.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for joining us in this episode. Could you tell people where they can find you online, social media, anything coming down that you're going to be reviewing?
I'm on Facebook. I'm theoretically on X. I think I have an account. And Instagram, I'm not on there often. Letterboxd is a good place to go. Midwest Film Journal is, of course, the best place to read my work. And, there are several podcasts on this podcast that, you can listen to my stylings, if you would call them that.
Yes.
I'll talk about movies.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, it's great to have you on, and we'll let you go. So right. Thank you so much.
Thanks
and
a pleasure, Joe.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You guys have fun.
And before we get to our secondary review, I want to take a quick moment to remind you that if you like the show, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe to and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or whatever your preferred podcast app is. And don't forget to subscribe to the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel as well, where I'm posting more and more videos and live streams of podcasts. I also have some interviews from Heartland Film Festival up there. And if you're interested in starting a podcast of your own, you can go to Libsyn and use the promo code OBSESS. When you sign up for a new account, you'll get up to 2 months free depending on when you sign up, and we'll get a commission on it as well. More details on that in the show notes of this episode. And now back to the show.
Tell me I view obsessively.
Hey, let's see if we can get through one of these skits.
Sketches. Davey, please.
Okay, you ready, camera one? Oh!
Maybe, motherfucker. You want me to break your phone?
Okay, do we go again?
The actors on their mark.
My name is Lord Michaels. I'm the producer and creator of Saturday Night. We're excited because there's never been a television show like this.
Okay, but what kind of show is it, Lauren? Do you even know what the show is?
Did anyone ask Edison what a light bulb was before he harnessed electricity?
Who are you in the metaphor?
Chevy Chase.
All right, and our secondary review of the evening is for Saturday Night, which is currently in theaters. It came out in theaters October 11th. The premise, according to IMDb, is at 11:30 p.m. on October 11th, 1975, a ferocious troupe of young comedians and writers changed television forever. Find out what happened behind the scenes in the 90 minutes leading up to the first broadcast of Saturday Night Live. The film was directed by Jason Reitman. Writers were Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan. And the cast includes Gabriel LaBelle as Lorne Michaels, Rachel Sennott as Rosie Schuster, Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase, Ella Hunt as Gilda Radner, and Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd. Emily Farron as Lorraine Newman, Matt Wood as John Belushi, and Lamorne Morris as Garrett Morris, and then also Nicholas Braun as Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson.
Well done. I wasn't expecting that.
Thank
that was
you.
A treat.
I forgot that I was going to do it until right before, and then I'm glad I didn't get cold feet. So Sam, do you want to do just non-spoilers, or do you want to break it up into spoiler and non-spoiler review?
I feel like I can pretty much say everything without spoilers.
Same. Okay, so what did you think about Saturday Night?
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was just lovely. It is a little groan-worthy at times. In my review, I compared it to, do you remember the scene in Walk the Line when Johnny Cash is auditioning for Sam Phillips, and Sam Phillips asks him a question that no one would ask in real life. He says something like, if you were in a ditch dying and you had one last song to sum up your life, what would it be? And it's like, obviously that never happened.
Right.
But like, it's a great cinematic moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of endearingly corny.
Yeah.
And endearingly, overblown a bit. I felt the same way about this movie. There are scenes where, like Lorne Michaels describes Saturday Night as an all-nighter in the city where it feels like anything is possible. And he's saying this to producers just moments before the show is about to air. And of course, you think, oh, well, that never happened. Like, that's corny. But it's undeniably entertaining to watch. I feel like that sort of sums up the tone of the movie for me, as being kind of endearingly corny and a bit self-important about what Saturday Night Live was. But I think it's fittingly self-important in sort of mirroring the way that the cast felt about the show at the time, that they were, starting the revolution when really they were just, kind of goofing around and having fun. I don't want to ramble on too long.
Oh no, go right ahead.
How did you feel about it?
I really liked it. I really liked it as well. The thing that I kept thinking about, also just first of all, sidebar, when you mentioned the Walk the Line scene, now I'm imagining in my head like someone like a sequel to Saturday Night, like someone like asking like what's Lauren up to, and then someone just saying like he has to think about his entire life before every show. But no, I really liked this meld of the chaotic energy of it, the kind of the whole idea of that, like, there's the odds of them pulling it off are near impossible. Like, we know as the audience, like, they do, and it's going to be 50 years of Saturday Night Live. Like, it's going to work. But seeing the way that the movie depicts the behind the scenes in that chaotic energy before the first airing, the first show, kind of just really helps demonstrate just how crazy it is for them to do a weekly, like this every week. Like, it's insane. I have those thoughts anytime there's any reference to anything like in theater. Like, I don't understand how those pieces fit together to create a performance like live. I don't understand that at all. So I appreciate that this movie has that chaotic energy. And the thing that I kept thinking about, and this is probably a natural comparison, is it has that feel of an Aaron Sorkin walk and talk. And what I have, I've grown to just kind of been complacent with Sorkin. Like, he's fine. He's fine. But I will kind of die on the hill that Studio 60 is not that good of a show. Like, I have people who are like, I know people who are just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. This is like, I can't believe it only lasted one season. It's like, yeah, because he's doing like self-important West Wing stuff with like a Saturday Night Live stand-in thing. Like, it's not like, yeah, it's clever that they're using that one of the sketches in the show in Studio 60 is like getting away with saying the word Jesus Christ in a sketch to get it past the censors, but like, it's not inherently funny. It's not as funny as seeing like Chevy Chase or Dan Aykroyd or whoever it was, like explain that a golden shower is like a yoga position. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like there is such a level of kind of low stakes in the grand scheme of things in this movie that I really appreciated in comparison to something like Studio 60, which is super self-important, super just like, we're doing the greatest work, like we're doing the most important work of our lives, when this is more like a bunch of kids putting together a show and then it being an icon of the industry for 50 years on. Yeah.
Yeah, and they kind of make fun of their own self-importance. Like, there's one scene where Rachel Sennot's character is explaining a sketch where John Belushi is in a bee costume.
Yeah.
And she says something like, it's postmodern, it's Andy Warhol. and you can tell that she's saying that with tongue firmly planted in cheek. So their self-awareness about, what they're doing is refreshing. And
yeah,
I was gonna say, in terms of the chaotic nature of it, it's coming out at kind of an interesting time where shows will drop an entire season on a streaming platform. And this movie reminds you that there was a time when, Lorne Michaels didn't have a whole season of SNL in the can.
Right.
He wasn't, sitting back on that Saturday night watching the first of several inevitable episodes. Like, it really captures the sort of minute by minute make or break nature of television at the time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting reminder of that in a time now where we don't really understand that the stakes of TV aren't quite the same. A show is guaranteed an entire season. Back in 1975, that wasn't a guarantee.
Right.
Saturday Night Live was up against reruns of The Tonight Show. So it's just this movie is kind of an interesting time capsule and a cool kind of reminder of what TV used to be.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And it's so interesting. I would love to to see like what the youths of today think about this, about this movie, because it is like, again, it is kind of capturing that magic of television of a bygone era. Like, I know they do this every week still, like it's still something that is on the air, but the stakes are a lot higher than they are now, even though I just said that they're pretty low stakes in the movie in the grand scheme of things. But it is something that is indicative of that era. And like, you get these little tidbits here and there. One of the things I really liked about the movie actually is that the performances, it's an ensemble, and the performances never feel like they're imitating the people that they're portraying. It feels like they're deep in like the nuances of the characters and their portrayals, like especially like Corey Michael Smith playing Chevy Chase, I thought was a phenomenal job. And it kind of teeters on like those like insecurities he has, and like certain aspects of it. Like there's a whole like bit about him, like the shoulder tap thing, and like knowing knowing about like the Chevy Chase show, it's just so interesting to see it kind of depicted the way it is in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an interesting time to even see a movie depicting him, because now his reputation is so tainted with being, a difficult kind of force of nature to work with. And this movie brings you back to a time when it doesn't shy away from the bluster he had and his arrogance, but it makes you understand it. It shows the insecurity beneath it all, and the specifically the youthful insecurity beneath it all. And thankfully it's not just a caricature of an asshole. It's, Corey Michael Smith gets you to understand Chevy Chase and even like him a little bit.
Yeah. So it's not like a depiction of an asshole or anything. J.K. Simmons as Milton Berle.
Well, yeah, I was just about to say, like, that's like Milton Berle kind of represents who we think of Chevy Chase as being now.
Like, and what a performance. That was fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they have a great scene together. It's my favorite scene in the movie is when they're kind of facing off against each other. It's almost like watching young Chevy versus current Chevy.
Yeah. Or it's like seeing you and Joe going head to head.
Right. Yeah, Joe has an obnoxiously large penis.
Jesus.
For people listening, Milton Berle really did have a reputation for having like a notoriously large penis. And this movie kind of gets into that myth a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was even a myth. But...
Right. Just, yeah. How'd you feel about the way that, I know we've touched on this and everything, and we can kind of start winding down as well, but like, what did you think about the behind the scenes of it, of it all? Like the depiction of, outside of like the characterizations of the subjects of the movie, like how'd you feel about the way that it handled like the visuals of like the chaos of a studio set 90 minutes before showtime? How'd you feel about that, the way it was depicted?
Well, it's shot handheld 16 millimeter. I thought that was very fitting. It is a really impressive production because there's a ton of stuff happening in the backstage area, and it just kind of seamlessly moves through it all in almost what seems like one long take at times. So technically it's very impressive, and there's this sort of chaotic jazz score underneath it all, which sort of almost like mimics the backstage clatter of equipment and stuff. But it's definitely Jason Reitman's most energetic movie stylistically. I was really impressed because I don't think he is usually given much credit for his aesthetic. It's he's usually praised more for the mood and tone and humor and heart of his movies, but I thought technically this was probably his most impressive movie.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm like, I was trying to discreetly pull up his filmography, because I know that there was, I don't want to be, there's a lot that I am a weird defender of Men, Women, and Children. I don't know if it'll hold up.
I like that movie too.
Yeah. That's the movie I was thinking of. But yeah, I do agree. Like the just visualization of it, the 16 millimeter handheld, just chaos of it all is really good. I really appreciated that aspect of it as well. Also, the kind of recreation of just the way that it all looks, like the recreation of like this little like bits that we see of the performance of the first Saturday Night Live, namely just the opening. The attention to detail was really good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think that's really spoiling anything,
No.
but yeah, you do see some of the actual sketches, and you know, they are pretty close.
Yeah.
In terms of how they look, and I would definitely agree that it's not. No one feels like they're doing an imitation,
right?
It doesn't feel like this sort of empty nostalgia fest of just a shot-for-shot recreation of the original, of the first SNL episode. You know, obviously it takes some creative liberties, but nothing felt too embellished or dramatic. There is one scene where Lorne Michaels recruits someone on the night of the first taping.
Yeah.
That pushes it a little far, but like I said, you know, kind of at the top of this review is, you know, it's kind of endearingly exaggerated a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if I have much else to say about it, although I will say that Nicholas Braun in the dual role of Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson was an interesting choice. Apparently, like in the trivia, apparently it was like I can't remember who was originally cast in the Jim Henson role, but like, I think it was the Jim Henson role, but like someone backed out like last minute. And so Nicholas Braun just basically was like sidled with it. Like he had to do both roles. That's not like a creative choice for the movie. So like throughout the movie, I was like wondering like, what's the point of having him play Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson? Just scheduling conflicts or something, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, how'd you feel about that? And then we can kind of start winding down.
Well, I mean, obviously it wasn't intentional, but it kind of mirrors the spirit of SNL. I mean,
yeah,
you know, they've had to make last minute choices in terms of the cast playing certain parts, and they have a history of, you know, people being possessive of certain characters, but kind of stepping on each other's toes. And obviously I'm reaching here, but I feel like him playing a dual role kind of mirrors like the nature of Saturday Night Live itself, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. That's a really good point. Yeah, and it was Benny Safdie was originally cast as Andy Kaufman, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts. So yeah,
I mean, that would have been cool.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah.
I don't think the movie suffers for not having a different actor. I thought it
sure.
kind of was a nice. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I did too. Like it kind of upped the kind of zaniness of it in a unique way. Whenever he popped up in either role, it was just like, oh, that's funny. But kind of final thought on this. Gabriel LaBelle as Lorne Michaels. How'd you feel about his performance as kind of the centerpiece of the movie, basically? Also, I just realized in the cast rundown, there's so many people in this movie that I didn't even reference Cooper Hoffman in the rundown. So anyway,
well, it's funny you say that, because when I was writing my review, I was like making sure to mention everyone, and I was like, "This is just the whole review is just turning into a cast like review."
Right.
Because there's just so many people in it. Oh
yeah.
But and you know, obviously they're worth mentioning. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if the cast wasn't good, I wouldn't have paid as much attention to making sure I mentioned everyone. But
Absolutely.
but I thought Gabriel LaBelle was great. I thought he did a great job of balancing like Lauren's arrogance with his insecurity. You know, he does some things that aren't necessarily likable, but they're understandable. Like he cuts some people from the show, which Lauren Michaels had to do in real life, and it's like he's not very gentle about it, but you understand why he had to do that. Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of joked to someone that, you know, after playing Spielberg and Lauren Michaels, like Gabriel LaBelle must have a strange ego.
Right.
I can't imagine what that's like, being cast as like these two incredibly influential public figures. But
absolutely.
But I mean, he really holds the whole movie together. He's surrounded by great people, but I think you know, they don't have to carry him. I think he does a good job of carrying the movie.
Yeah, I agree completely. Any parting thoughts on Saturday Night?
I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a blast. I don't think it's like the edge of your seat sort of incredibly tense movie that the trailers are making it seem to be. I mean, it is tense, but I don't think it like turns the taping of SNL into like a suspense thriller by any means. You know, it's still very fun.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's not Whiplash. So I would say it's maybe a bit overblown as this sort of like incredibly suspenseful backstage look.
Yeah.
But it's one of the stronger movies of the year, I think.
Yeah, I will agree with you there. I love the way that I was going to make another snipe at Sorkin, but it is in keeping with the energy and spirit of Saturday Night Live in the way that it's like all the like in comparison to like an Aaron Sorkin walk and talk show. It's nice that like this movie gets it that all the coke belongs on screen and not in like when he's writing the script, when Sorkin, like in Sorkin's nostrils,
Savage.
writing the script,
sick burn.
Yeah, as I stumbled through it. But no, it's really fun, energetic, and it's the only thing it was missing was that there wasn't a serial killer in any of the sketches on Saturday Night Live. That's what I'll say there. So that's it for our review of Saturday Night. What did you end up rating it again?
I gave this one 4 stars.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel bad now not giving Woman of the Hour 4 stars. I don't know.
Yeah, explain yourself there.
I don't know, man. I just ratings are kind of tough for me, honestly.
Me too. And then like this is an aside, but like they're tough for me also like with like Heartland movies or like film festival movies. Like I feel I don't know, I feel weird about that. Like rating movies that are like independent films that like people sunk all of their heart and soul into feels like being mean, but that's the cutthroat nature of this business. So I don't know. But that'll do it for this episode, I think. Before we go, Sam, could you tell people where they can find you online, and if you have anything coming up in terms of movie watching, reviewing, or I don't know what else you do with movies.
I'm making a movie.
Nice.
No, I'm kidding, not really. But no, you can find me letterboxed at Sam Movie Man. You can find my reviews at Midwest Film Journal. And yeah, I think the next movie I'm going to review is Here, Robert Zemeckis' new one. Yeah, curious, cautiously optimistic about that one. So we'll see. That'll come up. I think that is coming out November 1st.
Oh, that sounds right. Yeah. Wow. The year is almost over. This is insane. So yeah, well, everyone listening, go check out Sam's work. Also check out Joe's work as well. Also mine. You can do that as well. So that's it for this week's episode of The Obsessive Viewer. As always, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow the show on social media and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast app. Also check out Obsessive Viewer Podcast's other shows, Tower Junkies, a Stephen King podcast hosted by Tiny and myself, and Anthology, the Twilight Zone and classic sci-fi podcast hosted by me. Next week on the show, I believe I'll be reviewing Your Monster and Smile 2. That's what's planned, so stay tuned for that. I also need to get my friend Kim C on for a bonus episode on It Ends With Us. So we'll do that. Until then, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. And now, enjoy this short clip from a recent Patreon-exclusive episode. For the full episode and more Patreon-exclusive content, sign up at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. It's like that wide swing between funniness or funny comedy bits and then serious, like, not melodramatic, but serious, like, monologues that Amy Adams has, which I thought was an interesting narrative choice, because her character is alone. She is, like, her husband, Scoot McNairy, is traveling for business all the time. He is, like, it's very kind of nondescript what he does, and that's kind of by design. It's like everything is just kind of in this heightened reality to an extent where it's like, yes, he travels like 5 days a week for his job, and that's what he does. We don't need the context of what he does. There's a little bit of context in terms of him saying a couple of lines of dialogue late in the movie that kind of allude to what he does. But for the most part, this is just about, like, this couple, this husband and wife that are at different points in, not even different points of their lives, but basically they are in this rut, and it's not really painted as, like, resolving any kind of romantic tension or resolving any kind of domestic tension between. Thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. This episode was produced and edited by me, Matt Hurt. If you have feedback, thoughts on our episodes, or just want to connect, you can email me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. For more information on this show, including a full archive of our episodes and show notes, visit obsessiveviewer.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please give us a follow on social media and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice so you never miss an episode. Also, consider rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Audible to help increase our visibility and grow our community. If you want to support the show and get early access to new episodes, as well as a steady stream of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. For information on more podcasts presented by obsessiveviewer.com, visit obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. Our theme song is A Little Mad Sometimes by As Good As It Gets. For more of their music, check them out on Spotify and at asgoodasitgetsmusic.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn. Check out the show notes for your promo code to get started podcasting today.
Macy's has all of your Grill Master essentials for Father's Day. Stop by to get our hand-trimmed chicken breast and certified Angus beef patties that are ready to grill, so Dad can have his favorite dinner. Make sure to browse our bakery to find the perfect no-work Father's Day treat with our decadent peanut butter bars or famous donuts. Right now, you can get boneless beef ribeye steaks for $12.99 per pound at Macy's. Shop these Father's Day essentials in-store or online at Macy's.com through June 18th. Macy's, happy shopping!
Okay, it's official. We are very much in the final sprint to Election Day. And face it, between debates, polling releases, even court appearances, it can feel exhausting, even impossible to keep up with. I'm Brad Milkey. I'm the host of Start Here, the daily podcast from ABC News. And every morning, my team and I get you caught up on the day's news in a quick, straightforward way that's easy to understand, with just enough context so you can listen, get it, and go on with your day. So, kickstart your morning. Start smart with Start Here and ABC News, because staying informed shouldn't feel overwhelming.